And good morning, folks. I'm back, and as you can see, I got my router sled set up. I did have to make a few little minor changes over here. I had to change out this little guide block right here to accommodate that wider panel. I had that set up for panels, probably about half that width. So just some minor changes, but I'm not going to video that. I will link to the video in the description box down below where I scarfed the panels for the side panels. So we'll get back to you here shortly. Alright folks, I'm back. I got these first two panels scarf cut, and still have two more to do right there, and I will get those done tomorrow sometime, and then we will start the process of bonding those together. I did have to stop and make a few adjustments to my scarf sled in order to make a nice even scarf cut along this edge right here. And of course, what I'm watching for is whenever you're making scarf cut, you want to make sure that you keep the exposed plies fairly even. You don't want any big wonky looking curves in it, because then that means you're not getting a good straight flush square cut on that panel. And that right there, that will suffice, that will work. And like I said, all I have to do now is get the other two done. So we will see you in the next segment. Okay folks, as you can see right there, I got the last two panels scarf cut, and got a nice even cut. Talked about that a little bit in the last segment. You want to make sure that these exposed plies right here are consistent all the way across. That tells you that you have a nice even square flush cut, and got that here on both panels, and these should bond together very well. And so that'll be the next step in all of this. I've just got to get these pieces bonded together, but first I got a mess to clean up. So I will see you folks after that's done, and right before I get ready to start bonding these pieces together. Okay folks, welcome back. And this is my project for the day. This is the forward section of the bottom panel. This is the section that is going to curve up and connect to the bow, and then this is the aft section right here, and I have not bonded these together yet. I'll do that later. But the goal for today is to get this front section here marked where it meets the bow. And let me back the camera up just a little bit so you can see that. As you can see, I've got to mark off that that V section right there, get that angle right, and I've got to make a cut. I'm trying to hold this down, it's under tension right now, so just bear with me. But I've got to make a cut right along this corner so that this part of the panel will mate up to this part of the bow right here. And also got into another one of those little geometry issues right here. Because this panel is at an angle, you know, this is a shallow V boat. When I curl this panel to form it to the bow right here, as you can see, my center line tends to drift off a little bit. It starts to drift inboard quite a bit. So I'm also going to have to make a cut right along here. I need to find my finger there. I've got bright sunlight, so again, bear with me. I'm going to have to make a cut right along here so that this edge will be aligned with the center of the keel beam right here. And I'll demonstrate that here real quick if I can find a flat piece of paper. So as you can see, you know, when I hold the camera down and just hold this piece flat, you know, I've got a nice straight line right there. Now I'm going to simulate that that angle of that V bottom, and then I'm going to simulate that curve. And as you can see, you see what happens now. It forms an arc. That's no longer a straight line, and that's what I have to correct right here on both pieces, on both sides. And it just takes time and patience. That's all I can say. So I will see you in the next segment when that's done. Now after I get that done, I also have to make a cut right along here, right where the side panels curve toward the bow, right here. And so again, I'm going to have to cut a little section off right here. Basically, I've got to take this corner and this corner in order to shape this piece and make it fit that. All right, folks, next segment. All right, folks, got the first cut made. Now I've got to make that cut down the center. That's that cut that I was talking about to get the center aligned with the keel beam. So flip them over and get that done. Okay, and there's that other cut I was telling you about. I don't know if you can see that too well. I'll try to get the camera angle so that you can see, but this does make a real slight arc right here. And like I said, that's going to match up to the center of the keel beam, where it starts to make that curve when the bottom panel wraps around the front of the bow. All right, next segment. Okay, and here's what I was talking about on that inboard edge right there down that keel beam. That's what happens when I push this panel down in place. See how it just lines up right over the top of that keel beam. That's what I want. I've got just a tad bit of finish sanding to do, but really nothing major. Don't have to take off any large amounts of material. Of course, the thing I was worried about was taking off too much, which I didn't. But that's a good thing, because when you take off a little too much, now you got to go bond little pieces and strips back in place and correct it. But that is perfect right there. All right, later. Okay, folks, it is the next day, and I worked on this yesterday all till about 7 o'clock or so, and then I kind of overdid it a little bit in the heat and pushed myself a little bit too far, and got a little bit sick from the heat, but got some fluids in me, and all is well now. So what you're looking at right here is that rib that I was talking about in one of my earlier videos, and almost forgot to make this rib and get it installed, because when I laid this piece, when I laid this forward section of the bottom panel in place, what I didn't realize was happening was when I bent it and clamped it in place, it actually pulled this part of the side panel in. It pulled it down just from the spring tension, just from the tension on that plywood right there. And so I need to go ahead and get this rib made, get it bonded in, and that's what I'm doing right now. And that'll hold everything nice and stiff. I'll probably have to erase that mark right there. That was to be my original cut line for this piece, to shape that bottom panel to this section right here. But again, I'll probably have to get my eraser out, and once this is bonded in place right here, I'll mark that line again. Then we'll get that bottom panel cut. So that's what I'm working on this afternoon. I'm going to kind of pace myself a little bit so that I don't end up like I was last night. So anyway, I will see you here in a moment. So next up, and just like that, it's bonded in. Got all my fillet beads in the corners. Waiting on the stuff to dry, like always. The lightning holes look a little weird, I know, but whatever works. Like I said, it does not compromise the strength one bit. And so, now I can get on with the task of getting these bottom panels trimmed and marked. Man, it's just amazing how this just turns into a catch-all. Alright, more cleanup to do. Next. And I'm back. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up, folks. I don't know exactly how many videos it's going to take to document the installation of these bottom panels. Oh, and by the way, if I sound like I'm talking a little funny, I had some dental work done yesterday, and I've got this little metal bar running across the backside of my teeth here, and I'm still getting used to learning. I guess I'm learning how to talk again. But like I said, I don't know how many videos it's going to take to document the installation of the bottom panels there. We'll see. Today, moving right along, I want to read to you a passage from the book of Judges, and it's the very last verse from the last chapter of the book of Judges. In those days, Israel had no king. All the people did whatever seemed right in their own eyes. And man, I tell you what, that is such an apt description of what we're seeing in our day and time. People doing what seems right to them with little to no regard for consequences. If it feels right, do it. If you want it, take it. If you can't get it fair and square, then cheat. What's true for you is not necessarily true for me. I actually had a manager tell me one time that it's okay for a supervisor or a manager to lie to their employees because, as he put it, it's only a business lie, and business lies are okay. Yes, he actually said that to me. Now, all of that kind of reasoning is based on a very flawed principle called relative truth. And what is relative truth? Well, that's only what someone happens to believe it is. That's when someone says that truth, what you believe is true may not necessarily be what I believe is true. Well, there's a problem with that. And the problem is if two people hold totally opposite beliefs, if their views on a particular subject matter are 180 degrees apart, well, they can't both be right. Now, they can both be wrong, but they cannot both be right. That's because truth is not relative. Truth is absolute. When Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me," he did not go on to say, "Oh, but that only applies if you happen to believe in me." I mention that in response to people who say to Christians, well, that's fine if you believe in that sort of thing, but here's what I believe. And again, my response to them is this: you're free to believe whatever you want. God has given you that freedom, and He has given you the freedom to be as wrong as you want to be. But know this: there are consequences for rejecting Jesus Christ and substituting your beliefs or some man-made system of beliefs for the true and inerrant gospel of Jesus Christ. There is going to be a day of judgment someday, and on the day of judgment, no one will get to stand before God and make the argument, but this is what I believed. That's because, as Paul wrote in the first chapter of Romans, they, and they means everyone, they know the truth about God because He has made it obvious to them. Through everything God made, they can clearly see His invisible qualities, His eternal power and divine nature. So they have no excuse for not knowing God. Everyone, according to Paul, has access to the truth of God. So the choice then that everyone will have to make, and everyone's going to make that choice whether they know it or not, is either to accept or deny the truth of Jesus Christ. Folks, that's all I have for you. I do thank you for watching this video, and as always, in all things, to God be the glory.